Janatan Sayeh. Jonathan, good morning. There's a lot to unpack here militarily. Maybe you want to address some of that, but I am curious on the regime change situation. How do you think that will play out? Is there a sense of, we know the Iranian people want regime change, but what does that look like? And I don't mean geopolitically. I'm talking about on the streets of Iran, actually going ahead and making the move towards regime change. How would that play out exactly? And how long could something like that take?
So it's going to be, of course, an extensive campaign, and the core to that is having an opposition figure, and that is the Crown Prince, Pahlavi, who's been leading this movement. You know, having been involved in Tehran's protest myself in 2009, we were there on the streets, and we never got external support. The administration at the time under Obama thought any help to the Iranians by an American public would somehow have a negative implications. We know that no longer continues to be the case. So as to what Iranians on the ground want, talking to folks is that they are standing by. Of course, the president directly noted that they should stay in shelters. It's not time to rise up quite yet. It's really about degrading the capacity of repression. Both Israelis and American strikes have been taking out different pillars that have been killing protesters. So once that leadership level is gone, and once the protesters are actually called upon by the opposition and by the U.S. administration to take to the streets, that's where we're going to see defections, of course. And we're talking about mid-level and lower-level military officials. So it is really going to come down to them if they want to really face the consequences of dealing with the masses that are going to take to the streets, or if they're going to defect and join the movement or defend the movement with their weaponry. But what we do know is that the mindset on the ground is absolutely revolutionary. Iranians already sacrificed their lives, about 40,000, about a month ago. And if there's any indication, they're really willing to risk more right now, because to them, it is now or never. It is an unprecedented opportunity. And once the spark really was ignited by the U.S. and Israeli attack, Iranians are just awaiting further instructions to take to the streets and reclaim their country.
Jonathan, from the outside looking in, it seems to me that there's kind of this three-pronged approach. Yes, the United States has begun to bomb and take down the infrastructure, if you will, there in Iran. You mentioned the social uprising, but there seems to also be the third prong, which would be the political uprising. There's already a move in place to install a new Ayatollah, and it seems to me the political infrastructure also needs to be broken down in order to change the regime there. Am I off there? Am I off base?
No, you're absolutely correct. And Israeli officials actually announced that they're going after previous, current, and future leaders. Now, when you look at, which Ayatollahs these are, they're not legitimate. They're not nearly as known as much as the previous Ayatollah. Of course, more and more Israeli targeted assassination is going to eliminate these people. The fact that the campaign needs to go on as long as it's supposed to, we're talking about weeks, and that is exactly why. Because you want to ensure that there is no one that could replace this. And that's a major signal, meaning no matter whom you elect, he's going to be destroyed. So it is upon you to realize that there is no way out but through for you regime officials. So, of course, you're right to point out the political leadership. But again, that is mostly symbolic. The political leadership is there to legitimize the military angle. You're talking about the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. They really feed off of each other, legitimizing one another. But again, it's more important for us to focus on that apparatus that, of course, is killing Iranians inside and killing U.S. servicemen on the outside. So it's really, like you mentioned, it is a two-layered game. We've seen so far Israelis taking the lead with one of these hyper-local targetings. It needs to even be more specific than that. I think once the major wave is over, we're going to see more attacks against specific squads and battalions operating throughout the country that would allow the civil society to breathe. But I don't think the Iranian public or the United States at this point would accept another form of leadership change within the same framework of the Islamic Republic. I think everybody understands that we need systemic change for prosperity to really occur.
President Trump has said that the removal of Iran's supreme leader will make diplomatic solutions with Iran easier. What is your prediction here? What do you really foresee in the future? And even more importantly, what are you hearing on the streets from the Iranian people?
So, of course, we need to realize that there's no differentiation between different figures within the Islamic Republic. Whether you're talking about reformists, hardliners, Ayatollahs, or the IRGC figures, all of them are aligned on major issues that they do not want to halt enrichment. We have to remember, this foreign minister right now that's in charge that is coming out and publicly saying they're not going to halt uranium enrichment that's used for weaponization is affiliated with the reformist camp. So no matter whom you have in charge, of course, they're not going to provide concessions, especially the more paranoid they become. They're going to increasingly think any compromise is a sign of weakness. As for the Iranians inside, they already see this crumbling. So when I talk to folks on the ground, as challenging as that is because of the internet outages, but still you're able to communicate, they don't really see a viable option. They don't know anybody within the system that would be notable or legitimate enough to really take lead. So I think to them, they're just waiting on instructions. They see this as a crumbling state. Of course, they saw the president really backing them. It would be a catastrophe for us to alienate this pro-America population by somehow entertaining another form of an Ayatollah. Again, this is really time is of essence. I don't think America is actually considering installing a new Ayatollah in place. The new leadership has to come from Iranians on the ground, and they're increasingly calling for the Crown Prince, at least as a transition phase. So the focus is really for us to get to that transition, and after that, we're going to see the political dynamics led by the oppositions. Hopefully, we're going to see elections very soon for Iranians to decide what kind of governance system they want post-regime change.
Jonathan, we've got like 20 seconds, but I just want to double check something. I heard that the Iranian public overall, citizens there, are more secular than Muslim. Is that true? I understand it's like under 40% are Muslim. It's mostly more secular. Is that just confirming that?
Absolutely. Having grown up there, this is the Middle East's largest anti-Islamist movement. There is a major vacuum there. And of course, Iran has the largest growing Christian population because of how much the population is really pivoting away from Islamism, really gravitating towards secularism, at least in a form of government. I mean, if you want to be a practicing Muslim and keep that to the boundaries of your home and not to impose that on others, of course, Iranians should welcome that. It's really about differentiating between church and state, like you see here in the United States.
Janatan Sayeh, great information. I appreciate your time.